The Post-Holiday Quiet, a Midnight Cat Café story. December 27th, around 10 in the evening. The wrapping paper had gone into recycling bags that morning. The guests had flown home. The fridge held leftovers that Margot didn't particularly want to eat but felt obligated to finish. The tree still stood in the corner, but without presents underneath it, the thing looked slightly deflated, like a stage set after the play had closed. She wasn't unhappy exactly, just empty. All that anticipation, all that build-up, all those weeks of planning and shopping and cooking and hosting, and now it was just ordinary winter again. Grey skies, bare branches, nothing on the calendar. The house felt too quiet after being too loud, so Margot had put on her coat and walked until she found herself somewhere she hadn't meant to go. The cafe sat on a corner she passed twice a week without ever noticing. Amber light through the windows, a small chalkboard sign that said only, "Open." The smell of something warm drifting through the door as someone else left. Inside, the space wrapped around her like a familiar blanket. String lights traced the brick walls. A radiator clicked softly. Bookshelves lined one wall, stuffed with worn paperbacks and poetry anthologies that looked actually read, not decorative. Margot found herself drifting toward the books without meaning to. The woman behind the counter watched her. "The in-between days are strange, aren't they?" Clara said. "Earl Grey? It's good for contemplation. Pairs well with having thoughts, but no particular agenda." "That sounds exactly right." The tea arrived in a ceramic cup with a small chip on the rim, a kind of imperfection that made a thing feel real. Margot settled into a chair near the poetry section and let her eyes wander across the spines. The grey cat was already there. She lay on a low table near the books. Elegant, long-haired, her green eyes moving across the shelf as if she, too, were browsing titles. Her tail curled around her paws, the tip twitching once before going still. A book of poetry lay open beneath her. Something about seasons, endings, beginnings that came from endings. "That's sage," Clara said, setting down a small plate with 2 shortbread cookies. "She likes the quiet ones, the readers, the thinkers." Sage lifted her head, held Margot's gaze for a long moment. Then she rose and stretched, back arching high, front paws extending forward. She stepped down from the table. She crossed the floor toward Margot's chair. Each step landed softly. She moved the way water moves, finding the path of least resistance, never rushing. She leaped onto Margot's lap, light despite her fluffy coat, and settled. Her purr started almost immediately, so soft it sounded like pages turning in a distant library. "Is it strange to feel sad that it's over?" Sage's ear tilted toward her voice. "Even when it was exhausting while it was happening. I spent 6 weeks getting ready for 3 days, and now the 3 days are done, and I don't know what I'm supposed to want." The purr continued, barely audible, a presence more than a sound. The house was so full 2 days ago. My brother and his kids, my parents, the neighbours who always stopped by. We ran out of chairs. Someone sat on a cooler. Margot smiled faintly at the memory. And now it's just me and the leftovers and a tree that looks like it's waiting to be taken down. Sage began grooming herself, one paw extended, tongue working methodically. Then she tucked it back and started on the other. She wasn't performing, wasn't hurrying, just tending to herself the way all creatures do between one thing and the next. My grandmother used to call these the soft days, the ones between Christmas and New Year where nothing is expected of you. Margot took a sip of tea, Earl Grey, bergamot and warmth. She said they were her favourite part. I never understood that when I was young. The poetry book still lay open on the nearby table. Margot leaned over to read a few lines, something about fields lying fallow, about rest being its own kind of work, about how the ground needed silence before it could grow anything new. Sage watched her read, those green eyes held steady, unblinking. Maybe the quiet isn't empty, Margot said slowly. Maybe it's just different, a different season, one that needs different things from me. The cat's purr deepened slightly. Approval, perhaps, or just contentment. I've been trying to figure out what I should do with myself. Like the days need filling, like rest is just waiting for the next busy thing. She ran her hand along Sage's silky fur. But what if rest is its own thing? Not preparation, not aftermath, just rest. Sage stretched one paw forward, touched it to Margot's hand, then tucked it back beneath her chest. The doing is done. Maybe this is the part where I just exist in the space I worked so hard to create. Time moved gently in the cafe. Margot read poems without keeping track of how many. Sage dozed on her lap, occasionally shifting to find a new position. The tea cooled, and Clara replaced it with a fresh cup without being asked. Other people drifted in and out. Someone collected a book they'd left behind. Someone else ordered something to go and stood by the window drinking it slowly, watching the quiet street. The in-between days, the soft days, the ones where nothing was required. I think I've been afraid of this, Margot said quietly. The empty calendar, the quiet house. Like if I'm not busy, I'm not something, not valuable, not needed. Sage's eyes opened, held hers. But you're not busy. You're just here, being soft and warm and present. And that's enough, isn't it? That's your whole job tonight. Just being. The cat blinked slowly, twice. Yes, that's the whole job. Clara appeared with the check, though Margot hadn't asked for it. Take your time, but when you're ready, you're ready. How do you know when that is? Usually when you stop asking. Clara smiled. The cats know before the people do most of the time. Sage had begun making small movements toward waking, a stretch of back legs, a flex of the claws, a slow blink that suggested she was preparing to move on to her next important appointment, probably another lap, another quiet person who needed her. "Thank you," Margot said, "for the space to just be deflated without anyone trying to fix it." "Deflated isn't broken. It's just resting between inflations." The walk home was cool and clear. The streets had gone quiet with that particular late December hush. Holiday decorations still glowed on porches, but the frantic energy had drained away. Everyone was recovering. Everyone was in their own soft days. Margot's house waited for her, dark except for the tree lights, which she'd left on timer. She didn't turn on the television, didn't check her email, didn't make a list of things she should accomplish before the year ended. She just made a cup of tea from the gift basket her mother had brought, something herbal meant for sleeping. Sat by the tree. It didn't look sad anymore, she realized. It looked like it was resting, the ornaments catching the light, the star slightly crooked at the top, the whole thing just quietly being a tree without any presents to justify its existence. The year was winding down. The soft days stretched ahead, unhurried. Nothing was required, and in that nothing there was something like peace. Margot finished her tea, set the cup aside, pulled the throw blanket from the back of the couch and wrapped it around her shoulders. The tree lights blinked their slow, patient rhythm. Her eyes grew heavy. Somewhere a distant car passed. Somewhere other people were doing other things. But here, in this quiet room, in these soft days, there was only rest. She let herself have it. She let herself drift. Let the quiet hold her the way it wanted to all along. Soft, soft, soft days.